What is up, my Good Vibe DJ tribe, and welcome to another episode of the DJ Spotlight here on DJNTV TV. With over 2 decades of experience in music, this resilient and innovative artist has made some serious impact in our dance music scene across North America. You may have caught one of her sets at Bass Coast, WMC, Decibel, or ADE. Her involvement, drive, and work with Substation Recordings, Girls on Decks, and the Alberta Electronic Music Conference is inspiring. Today we are chatting with Essette, once known as Artist Isis Graham, on her story, the amazing projects she is running, and her insight into the industry. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Kilma. You're the best. Thanks for having me on your little show. I love it.
Of course. So if you could start us off, can you take us a bit on your journey? What were the early beginnings of your career like, and how did it lead you to where you are today?
Yeah, so the beginnings of my career were actually I started throwing parties, which kind of got me involved in the DJ realm. I definitely was a raver before that and just loved raves and parties, and I knew kind of right away that I wanted to throw parties. That basically was it. I was so motivated to just be the one curating the music, and there were certain local DJs that I just loved, like John Delirious and Tryptamine, and at the time there was like Dom G and DJ Rice, and I was super enthralled with the whole idea of throwing parties. And then probably about, I don't know, 8 or 9 months into that process, after throwing a couple little underground tiny parties at the rugby club here in Calgary, I was like, I want to DJ. I want to do what those guys do. And yeah, at the time there wasn't very many women DJing. There was Honey Mustard, Elaine, who's amazing. She's such a legend. She was a techno DJ then, but she's also a drum and bass producer and a drum and bass DJ now. And then, of course, DJ Double D, who I think has been DJing for longer than I've been alive. And then, of course, Marisha, I think Lotus Queen came about a few years before me, and those girls were so inspiring, and so they kind of gave me hope to start DJing. But kind of jumping onto the DJ scene was pretty easy for me because I had been promoting, and I kind of had built a network here in Calgary, and just started to get booked with this group called the Techno Collective, who back then were doing these really cool sort of community-based raves where you could do yoga and have a potluck, and then music and dancing, and you could bring your family. It was a super family-friendly party scene. So it was nice. It was like a nice segue into being a DJ in the rave scene. It was kind of a gentle land, as I would call it, because I was still only 16, so I wasn't old enough to DJ in clubs yet. So I had a few years of just playing underground parties, and then onto the clubs we went the moment I was 18. I actually had my first residency at the Underground when I was 16, but we won't tell anyone that I wasn't of age. Just kidding. They already know. that club's no longer anymore. Rest in peace, the Underground. But from there, it was just sort of like a whirlwind. DJ'd a lot. Had a few residencies at the Cherry Lounge and this place called Manhattan's. 2003, Molly Fi kind of lassoed me into getting involved with Girls on Decks, and that's kind of when Girls on Decks was born. And then we had a long run. We're still running, but we had a long run of doing just all-girl DJ parties, which was really cool. And then I got into music production in 2007. And I was terrible at it for a long time. Put out my first record, I think, 2008. And then I really got obsessed with producing for a long time and put out quite a few records between then and now. And then I got the label going with Casey Rusty Meeks, and that was Substation Recordings. And then I started the Alberta Electronic Music Conference, which has been the last 3 years. So just a lot of things. I'm one of those people that's always up to something. I can't sit still.
I love it. That's so amazing, though. And I feel like the more projects we have on the go, the more efficient we are. We're just like, yeah, we have so much time.
Yeah, yes. There is only so much time. I think that it's so important as an artist to kind of stay grounded in that whole time management efficiency piece, because it's really easy to just get really lost in one project and then ignore the rest of your life. I mean, as you know, because you're a parent, I mean, you really have to schedule your time and kind of know where your limits are, and know when is the right time to let go of certain projects if they're taking up too much of your time. So that's always been a battle for me, because I'm always like, I can do it, nothing's going to stop me, and then I get all frazzled and there is too much going on in my life at times. So I've had to make some tough decisions lately to, cut some projects and cut my involvement in certain things so that I can focus on things that I think are the most important thing to do right now.
That's such a great point, and I really like that you bring that up. You brought up the thing about time management, which honestly, I've only gotten good at it now that I am a parent and I've kind of forced into it. And then the other thing about letting go of projects that just aren't really working for you anymore. And one of the projects you have been working on, like AMECON. Am I saying that right?
AMECON. I mean, you can say it AEM-CON. I mean, it's Alberta Electronic Music, so everyone says it differently. It's actually pretty funny to put something out like that and then hear how people digest it.
Yeah, I'm like looking at it, I'm like, I just added an A in there that did not exist. So can you...
Totally okay.
Can you tell me about your vision behind this project and where you've seen it grow? Anything you think people really need to know about it?
Well, AMECON kind of came about because there was about 3 or 4 years ago, I was working on this project with Habitat Living Sound called Studio Social, which is a group designed to bring local producers together to showcase their work. And this community in Calgary of music production people, whether from all different genres, was growing at such a rapid pace. But what I really noticed is that even though people can produce music and their output is amazing, and some of them are so talented, I want to bang my head against a wall. But they don't have any idea or insight on how to operate in the music business, the music business at large. They don't know what royalties are. They don't know how to sell their music. They don't know how to make money off music. And a constant complaint you see online is people, giving up producing or trying because they can't make it in music, which absolutely is not true. And there's a functional way to exist in the actual music industry and create money off of your art. But it does take effort, and it does take actually being curious enough to dive into that. And kind of, when I travel to things like ADE or WMC or even Canada Music Week or South by Southeast, the reason why I go there is to sort of gather information about the music industry. And I just really saw an opportunity to bring that to Western Canada, because there's nothing like it of its kind. We do have Breakout West, which is a great, it's like the Western Canadian Music Awards, but it's not focused on electronic music. And I think there is this gaping hole in Canada's music industry, kind of from Winnipeg all the way till Vancouver. Actually, maybe even just between Toronto and Vancouver, there's this big gap of no real massive industry. And so to sort of shine the light on all the talent and all the people that are doing things in this section of the country and give them a bunch of tools that they can use for their career to kind of stage it to the next level is kind of what the idea was behind the conference. And our first year, we started off with like 50 little delegates and speakers, and then we had about 100 people come, and it was this really cute little thing. It was all volunteers, and everyone did everything for free, and we did the best we could to sort of just make it happen. And then last year we had about 400 people altogether, around 70 speakers and delegates. And then this year we have over 120 delegates. We're expecting around 500 people, but the program is insanely huge. I can't even believe the rate of growth, but also the amount of interest we've had. Companies like Roland and Moog and Arturia and Ableton, they look at this part of Canada and they have the same feeling. They're like, this is a huge area that's a blank page. Like, there's so much opportunity here, and there's clearly an abundance of musicians and artists and people to connect with. So we've had such a great time connecting with these kind of bigger industry people from all over the world and sort of drawing their attention to us. So I'm super excited this year in particular, because not only do we have the biggest business part of the conference, but we have some amazing showcases. Like Octave One is doing a live PA performance and then a breakdown of their MIDI thing, like their spaceship. So they're going to be, that's an exclusive thing to North America. The only other place this has ever happened is at Amsterdam Dance Event. So we're pretty excited about that. We have, I can't even, 55 blocks of education over 3 days. And it's so extensive that you really have to pick and choose what it is you want to get out of it, because you can't do it all, but I wish you could. So our goal kind of over time is to keep building it and making it bigger, in the sense that every single block of the conference is something that you are excited about and that people will really see value in. And I think Alberta is a great place for something like this, because we have the tourism infrastructure. Our cities are big enough to be able to handle something like this over a long period of time. And we're right in the middle. We're right in the middle of Vancouver and Winnipeg, and we can just bring everyone to the center and do something like this, which I think is going to be awesome. I hope it just keeps growing. I mean, that's what we all hope when we start new projects, but I really do hope that people can see the value and like actually see what they can get out of this. Because we certainly don't do it for us. We do it for you.
Yeah, I have been following it for a bit, and like from the outside looking in, I see the value. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, you guys have so many amazing things going on, so many amazing speakers, and people come back from it talking about it. You see, like with your project with Studio Social, how many amazing producers came out of that?
Oh my God, hundreds of people. Right? Yeah, hundreds of people were impacted by that project. So
yeah, so
it's a great feeling to have that sort of. For us at AMECON, the biggest win is probably the few weeks after the conference, when you can see all the new collaborations and you can see people talking about like their newfound, I suddenly know about royalties and publishing. And you're like, yes, that's the win right there. Because it clears up all those blind spots, It's awesome. I love it.
I think it's so amazing that you're doing this. And it sounds like you have such a great team behind you as well, supporting and helping to make this thing work.
It's all DJs too. Like our accountant is a DJ, Shauna. Like our social media person, Dane Hansen, is a DJ. We've got Andrew Williams, who's Dunmore Park, who's a DJ, and then our marketplace manager is Kilma, who's like a live PA artist. Every single person on our team, from numbers to marketing, is a DJ and or producer and or event organizer. So there's nothing about this that's coming from anywhere outside of from this industry. We really are coming at it from a grassroots perspective, with our ears and hearts like right on the pulse of what's going on in this community.
Yes, I love that. A real labor of love.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of labor of love and community and building that, it's incredible to see that Girls on Decks is celebrating a 15-year anniversary.
Yeah, it's wild.
Right?
Wow. Yeah, it is really crazy.
What has been your role with the collective over the years, and how has it impacted you as a whole?
Well, I think my initial role was basically a DJ, but Krista's always been the absolute ship driver for Girls on Decks. And for the first few years, we were rallying and getting support and, bringing girls on. And then when we went into sort of the next phase where we were getting more and more women involved, I was doing more of like website designs and podcasts and dealing with all the technology. Krista might not admit it, but back then she really hated technology. She's really good at it now. But so that was kind of my job there for a little while. And then when Girls on Decks kind of took a turn for being more like Pride event based, and they were doing a ton of they had their True Colors series, I was less involved, but that was also during a time when I was producing music and kind of was less involved in general with a lot of projects, because I was being pretty self-centered in terms of how I was spending my time. I definitely took a way lesser role, and during that time, Krista sort of took the project and rallied all these new women and all these new people in the community and brought them on board. And it's just it's been amazing to watch not only her develop as a leader, but develop this platform and then kind of see the impact trickle out. I think her and I both at one point just felt like no one really cared about what we were doing. And then I think somewhere around our 10-year mark, we just kept getting all these people being like, if it wasn't for Girls on Decks, we never would have had our first gig. If it wasn't for Girls on Decks, we never would have had our first mix. And we were like, oh, we did do something there for somebody. Whoa. So it kind of started as like a selfish thing where we just wanted to have big chicks playing together, and we wanted a great, like, empowered group of women just doing things they wanted to do without anyone stopping us. And then it sort of became like this impact. We started to impact others, and we didn't even really know how, or we didn't even realize that was going on. But it's been especially special, I think, lately for Krista, because I think people really do resonate with the project now that they've seen it have this kind of longevity. We definitely get flack for the name these days, Girls on Decks. We've been called out by other women saying that it infantilizes women by calling them girls. And they say that it's a non-inclusive name, which is a struggle for me, because the basis and foundation of this operation is to be ultra inclusive of queer and people of color and all kinds of dynamic diversity. And so that's where it came from. I mean, it's just like, what do you do at 15 years? You're going to change your name. I don't know. So those are the kinds of funny, weird things that we're dealing with. But I think we're just going to full stream ahead and just keep doing what we're doing and let the haters hate. Huh?
Yeah. Like, I mean, if that's where y'all want to put your focus, all right, then we'll just keep going forward. Yeah,
we're going to keep taking the train straight forward. Exactly.
And I like how you mentioned that people were giving acknowledgement, and then suddenly it was like, oh, hey, okay, cool. I think that's so important. We forget to do that. Somebody has some sort of impact in our life, and we forgot to say, like, hey, what you're doing means so much to me. Like, please keep doing it.
Yeah, because there was a moment where we really were like, should we just like fold it in or what?
Fold it in.
Yeah, and then we didn't. So I am too. It's important. There's a lot of like all female collectives these days, and a lot of them are getting great recognition. I'm so happy for that, and I'm happy that we could provide that in Calgary of all places, because I don't think the Prairies really has the best rap in terms of, being open-minded, and I think that's unfortunate, because like at the ground level, there's been a lot of initiatives like this that have existed for a long, long time, and in fact sometimes a lot longer than some of these bigger things that are getting more popular on the internet now. So I don't know, I think we're doing okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's definitely quite the switch happening right now.
Oh yeah.
It's nice to be a part of that and see it. Speaking of, projects, you kind of talked a little bit about letting go of projects and starting up new ones and taking a step back. You've recently resigned as AR with Substation Recordings to focus on other projects. I think that letting go or passing things along to somebody else is not an easy decision.
No.
For you, how did you know this was the right move at this time in your life?
Yeah, so obviously Substation was like a super passion project, and Casey brought me on with the label in, I think, late 2013. So really, like, that's 5 years ago, which is, I can't even believe that much time has gone by. And it was such a fun project, and it was super useful for me to kind of learn about the other side of running a record label. As an artist trying to get onto record labels, it was super useful for me to understand the process on the other end. And I'm really grateful for that experience. And I think in terms of what we did and how we involved Canadian music and kept it really localized, I think was really special and super important for the time that we were really pushing hard on that. And I think it's still super valid. But I had to go, once I started with AMECON and we really got to this third year, I really had to sit down and go, okay, how many projects can I really do where it's like almost a volunteer basis, and where the essence of what it is really similar, which is helping other people realize and actualize their career and supporting them in this way. Like, how much of my personal time can I give to this concept as a whole? And yeah, it took me like 7 months to make that decision, and it was obviously hard, and actually not a lot of people know. I just sort of resigned. I didn't really want it to be a point of attention because it really doesn't affect the label or how it's going to run or its future, because Casey's going to keep going, and I'm sure he'll involve great people to keep going. And I think, you know, we still have lots of shirts to sell when the brand is really, really strong, and I think it has a long future ahead of it. But it was a hard decision for me because I really liked A&R. I really liked curating music and working with artists to sort of develop their sound. I think one of my biggest rewards from doing that was sort of, people would send us demos early in their career and we'd be like, well, no, it's not really quite there yet. You know, in a couple of years, get back to send us more demos. And then we would have artists like 3 years later send us like a well-developed concept, and you could hear the evolution in this person's obviously technique, but ability and everything. And you just be like, there it is. That's exactly the thing we've been looking for people to grow and challenge themselves to rise to something. So I'm going to miss that part, but AMECON really does fill the gap for me. So I have to focus. We only have so many hours in the day.
Yeah. Where do you want to spend that time?
Yeah, exactly.
And, like, on that note, I don't think that people necessarily understand that, you know, maybe as a DJ or producer, that there are so many things that can be going on at once. And sometimes music actually takes a back seat so that you can go tour or focus on projects like this. What has that process looked like for you, and how do you get back into the studio again after taking such a long break sometimes?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I'm still exploring that. Definitely, it's been 2 years since I released a record, a little bit more than that since I produced a record. After I had an eye injury at a festival that basically disabled me from being able to look at screens for long hours, and it really was about a 6-month process to heal from. And so during that time, I completely lost the habit of going in the studio and scheduling time and making myself be creative. And then when I got back in, I was just so distraught and upset with myself because I kind of like forgot everything I learned. It's crazy how you just assume that once you get your workflow down to like writing a track in 3 hours and you have everything going, that it's just always going to stay like that. But no, there's a reason why there's a saying, practice makes permanent or practice makes perfect. And that's because you literally have to do it. If you don't do it, nothing's going to happen. So I literally got myself into like a phase of unproductivity with music, and that then got filled with other projects. And so then now I'm here 2 years later going, oh, I need to make some music. And then I get in here and I'm like, oh, I don't know where I'm going to even start. But, you know, after getting Substation kind of off my plate, and AMECON is really like 6 weeks out now, so it will be definitely no studio time until after that. But really, I'm going forward with this notion that I need to like literally block time in my calendar to sit in here. And if all I do in this room is stare at my keyboard, at least I scheduled the time and made it so that I'm in here farting around. You know, I think that's some people. I think what I did that's wrong is I obsessed about output, and I think you have to be conscientious of output when you're really doing a lot of work. Someone who's really great at output and focusing is a local artist named Cloves, who I think you've interviewed before. She's amazing. They're amazing. They know how to really focus their time and energy into projects, and the output is so consistent. But I think when you're getting back into it, you can't be so obsessed with output. It just needs to be one small victory at a time where you're like, look, I made a drum beat. Sweet. That is a success. I need to be okay with myself doing very small things and having a lack of productivity. But having the small, tiny bits of productivity mean a lot more. I had a label manager that I did a record for. I saw him this summer in Germany, and he said, hey, look, you know what? Most people are putting out way too much music, and a lot of it is garbage. So here, I'll tell you what, if you only write one record every 4 years, but every one of those records is really good, that's a way better outcome than putting out 70 records and only having, 10% of them actually be viable music. Like, to have it be music that will stand the test of time and speak your voice for you over time. And I think that was like a light bulb moment for me. I was like, okay, I need to just stop making myself feel bad for not doing this. I can get back into the studio and I will make more music, because I can't not. And it comes out of me all the time. So I just have to focus, really.
I like that you mentioned that, though, that we can be so critical of ourselves and that we need to just celebrate those tiny victories. And the other thing you said that was really important is blocking off time to do those things that are important to us. Because, and I've said this before, and I can't remember who said it, who the quote comes from, but perfectionism can become procrastination, and procrastination has a lot to do with like fear. So a lot of the time we put things off because it's like, well, what if the tune I make sucks? And if it sucks, am I going to be critical? And then I'm not going to want to get back in the studio. So I'm just going to go watch Netflix for an hour.
Yeah, it's easier not to, right? It isn't easy to make music. Like, even if you're good at it, even if you're naturally inclined and you can be a wizard with MIDI cables, which I'm not, like, that is hard for me. Making music, the musicality of music for me is what comes naturally, but the technology, like getting MIDI stuff to work, like, I will throw it out in the street. I get so frustrated. So like all of that stuff it's not fun for me, but then when I figure it out slowly and then have these small achievements, it's pretty great. Like when I got my TB3 to talk to my TR-08, I was like, woo, might as well throw a party now because I figured it out. But then the next day I forgot how to do it again. So I had to have the same moment the next day. It was really funny. Like, you're not always going to remember everything. You're not going to be good at everything. Not everything's going to be immediate. And that's okay.
Well, watching your journey is incredibly exciting and inspiring because you've also moved with music as well. I remember when you were producing dubstep for a while there.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing your music and thinking, oh my God, this is so inspiring and amazing, and just happens to be a woman as well. And then you know, with the label and AMECON and Girls on Decks, it's so wonderful. You're consistently helping out your community and being the example that a lot of us need to see so that we can remind ourselves, like, yeah, you can keep going, because you've been in the industry for years and you come from humble beginnings, you know, making, like, curating the shows and then learning how to DJ and then getting into the production. And I mean, you're still doing all of those things. You're doing such a wonderful job. I know here in Winnipeg, you've got quite the name.
I love Winnipeg. Winnipeg's my favorite. Love you, Winnipeg.
I really appreciate you coming on the show today to talk to us about your experience and all the wonderful insight you have. Is there anything that you'd like to end off with? Thoughts, comments, upcoming shows or releases?
Well, I'm excited. I'm really excited to be playing. I'm playing at Open Studios in Vancouver on December 1st, which is my first kind of long format DJ set in Vancouver. It's like going to be at least a 3-hour set, late night. And I can't wait for that. Gosh, what else? We have our 15-year anniversary party that we're planning for Girls on Decks, but it's going to be in the new year, that's for sure. I think I'd like to close by saying that you can really do anything you want to do, right? I think we get really stuck wishing and dreaming that we had something else, and it's easy to get stuck in a little loop where you're just not doing it because you're scared, like you mentioned earlier. And people always ask me, like, how do you manage this schedule? How do you do these projects? How do you not go crazy? And like, the answer is I do go crazy. And it is hard, and I have to sacrifice a lot of things like family time, and you know, relationships are strained when, you know, it's the 3 weeks before AMECON and I'm literally like, my job, I'm strained at my job, and everything does get compromised a little bit, but building systems around support and having friends that can help you and being great at communication makes it so you can do anything. So it's, you know, taking on big projects and having big goals and dreams and taking on problems is really, I think, important to keep yourself excited and invigorated in this business. Because if you truck along and you're just finding DJing and gigging is tiring, like, you're right, it is tiring. It's like a really hard part of what we do. And a lot of the rewards that come from being in music come from sharing and collaborating and like communicating your legacy, but also the legacy of music overall through the events that we do and the music that we play. And I think it's important to always have another idea, like a thing that you want to do, and just take it on, try it. You can do anything. I tell all the girls and girls on decks, you can do anything. yeah. All I can see is the emojis when I do
yeah, Alana, and why am I having a brain fart right now? Broad City. You can't do anything.
Yeah. You can't do anything.
I love it. There was one thing that you said to me a few years ago when we were at Bar I, and we were talking about Cubase, and you're like, girl, you just gotta like learn. You gotta freaking just don't expect anybody to teach you. Just go read the manual and go on YouTube, and like no one's gonna teach you. You gotta teach yourself. And then, like, of course, if somebody does try to teach you, okay, cool, but don't expect it.
Yeah, you can't wait around for that. Like, that is not going to come. And you know what? One of the biggest things I've learned lately is, like, ask for help. I'm like one of those people, I'm sure you're a lot like me, but I have a hard time being like, hey, I need someone to show me this thing. I don't get it. Like, I had to cry for help to get my MIDI stuff set up. Like, it was a nightmare, and I was finally like, I can't do it by myself. I need someone to help me. Someone come over here and show me what I'm doing, because I have no idea. And then it was, you know, it's hard to be vulnerable like that, and it's hard to admit that you can't. But then you can after, because someone else totally can, and they're going to come here and take 3 seconds, and then you're going to be like, I get it.
Yeah, like this button. You're like, are you effing?
Oh my God.
So many times. And you know, the funny thing is, every time I get stuck in my DAW, I go in the group and I ask a question, and then I figure it out 30 seconds later.
Totally, yeah.
Of course. If I ask, I will figure it out on my own.
Sometimes typing out what the problem is for me will make me realize the sequential thinking required to solve the problem, which is amazing, especially in a DAW, especially like Ableton, because Ableton is like, it's so intuitive that it's almost too intuitive, and sometimes you assume that it's going to be way harder than it is, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's how, and it's done. And then you're like, I'm an idiot. Why didn't I get that?
You're amazing, and I love everything that you're doing, and thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course. For the rest of you all that are tuned in, make sure you let us know if there's anything that really stuck out to you in this interview, maybe something that inspired you, that resonated with you. Let us know in the comments below, and we will have links to her page so that you can check out all the things she's got going on, especially if you want to go to the music conference, and you know you want to go to the music conference. It's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
So until next time, don't let no one kill your vibe.